Hey lovely sex hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is going to be issue 67 of Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer. My delivery arrived last Friday, so that was the 7th of March. So I obviously got 67, 68, 69, and then 70, which comes with these tokens, but we also get a larger scale map of Neverwinter, I believe. But we're going to have a look at 67 today, so come and join me on the desk and we will have a look through. Hey lovely sexy hobby people. Right, so issue 67, Dungeons & Dragons Adventurer. We get some sparkly gold dice. Them aside. Let's get the magazine. Now. Oh, come on. Why? Let's just check the rest of the pages. Oh, they seem okay. Right. Let's try something else. So, set of awe-inspiring dice, which thanks to a blast of arcane magic are glittery, orange and transparent all at once. So that's what they are. Okay, so sage advice B, talking about home brewing campaigns, part 1. Put your stamp on the world to give your players a uniquely memorable experience. You might have heard the term home brewing being used when DMs and players discuss role-playing games and wondered what that involves. Essentially, home brewing is the practice of modifying existing content or creating brand new game content. This can include anything from spells and abilities to whole species, monsters, or even entire worlds. By creating unique elements, you can tailor your gaming experience to your specific preferences and tastes, so it resonates with you and your group on a deeper level. So, I've literally just finished. I've literally just dropped out of a homebrew campaign. There were some issues, but it was quite unique and it was different to D&D campaigns that I'd been part of previously, and it was quite. The premise was really interesting and really good, thoroughly enjoyable. As I say, there were some issues, but the basic premise of the campaign was really good, thoroughly enjoyable. So it is possible. One thing I'm going to state though is, if you're home brewing a campaign, then I'm going to ask that as a DM you are consistent in the way that you deal with certain things in that homebrew, that we write down in our session 0 what things can and cannot happen, and that you, when you're homebrewing your monsters, you don't make them so overpowered that essentially you have to nerf some of their abilities in combat, or else every time you go into combat you will have a TPK, total party kill. I think those are the main things which, from the last homebrew, I would, if I go into a new homebrew, those are the main things that I would ask to be considered. But certainly home brewing allows you to come up with strange new storylines, strange new worlds, you know, different abilities for people, that sort of thing, and so on. And the other thing is if you're going to homebrew magic items, or you're going to give magic items out, as a DM in a homebrew situation, then you need to decide if the item that you're giving out is going to be nerfed, and in that case you need to provide the stat block, or if you're giving out the item and tell the person to find it online, when they find it and print out the stat block, that you don't alter it, because that was a bugbear in the last campaign that I did. Our DM would turn around and say, oh yeah, you can all have this, this, this and this, look them up online, and then when we looked them up online, she'd go, oh yeah, no, that's fine, but I don't like that, so I'm going to nerf it. And that is really, I think that's a bad skill, because if you're telling people to look up something and they see something which has certain abilities, okay, they're going to look at that and they're going to think, oh yeah, that's great, okay, I can do that now. But then when they come to use it, if the DM turns around and says, well, no, I don't want you to have that, that can start to create resentment and animosity within the campaign. And our DM, unfortunately, my previous DM had a bit of a habit of doing that. So it got to a point where when she was dishing out magic items, I would look it up in her presence and then say, it does this, this and this, is that acceptable? Simply because she would, as I say, she would give us an item and then turn around and say, oh no, that's too overpowered, you know, and take certain aspects of that magic item away. So don't do that, don't be that person. But it says here you can make an engaging storyline, vivid world building, challenging encounters, engaging characters, and player agency. Then we come into homebrewing part 2, encounters. So, and again, encounters, some of the encounters that we had were quite fun, but again, our DM was very combat orientated, and we would often have combat for the sake of combat. And it wasn't part of progressing the story. Yeah. We'd literally, for example, I was not well, but and I was taking some time away, but our DM had taken our adventurers to a candy land where they defeated a candy dragon or something and managed to score a lot of loot and come out of Candyland and load up their transport with all their loot, and they were making their way back. Yeah, they'd beaten the big bad boss, they'd rescued the princess, they'd got the loot, they were going home. But for some reason the DM decided to throw in an encounter with sand miffers. It did nothing except produce combat for combat's sake, and didn't really help to progress the story arc. Yeah, it was just there. Yeah, sometimes just let your players enjoy the win. You don't have to keep throwing things at them all the time. So what's the hook? Immersive interactive environments, and think long term. Treasure tables. Oh, this is interesting. Ooh. What priceless artworks or precious gemstones lay buried within a dragon's hoard? Roll on the treasure tables to find out. These are cool. 10 gold pieces gemstones and 50 gold piece gemstones. Oh, look at this. 100 GP gemstones, 500 GP gemstones, 1000 GP gemstones, 5000 GP gemstones. Art objects tables. Ones that are 25 gold pieces, 250, 750, 2,500 and 7,500. And then we're on to more. Individual treasure tables. D100. Use the individual and hoard treasure tables to decide how much loot greedy creatures have stashed away. Okay. So you'd roll and then you look up the results. So 1 to 30, it would be 5d6 copper pieces, for example. Or like with this one, if you were to roll between 30 and 100, then you could pick between these, 2d6 times 10 gold pieces, 2d6 times 10 gold pieces, and in the brackets it's 140. So I'm not entirely sure what that does, but also, like on the last one, it says 2d6 times 10, 70, and 3d6, 10 for platinum pieces as well. So yeah, just there's a lot of different ways that you can decide. Treasure hoard tables, challenge 0 to 4, challenge 5 to 10, challenge 11 to 16, challenge 17 plus, and these ones are for challenge 0 to 4, challenge 5 to 10, challenge 11 to 16, and challenge 17 plus. Okay, Icewind Dale. This unforgiving land is built upon snowy wastes, icy glaciers, and the bones of past settlers. Most maps of the Forgotten Realms place Icewind Dale solidly within the far north, set between the spine of the world, an indomitable mountain range, and the near frozen sea of moving ice. The area barely permits any sustainable settlement. As such, Icewind Dale demands a great deal of self-reliance and perseverance. The weather is just as likely to kill you as any number of monstrous creatures lurking in the snowy wastes. Cool. 10 towns. Further north than the cities of Waterdeep and Neverwinter, Icewind Dale hosts a collection of small settlements known as 10 towns. Most inhabitants of this thinly populated area scratch out a living as fishers, traders, and prospectors, though you'll also find the occasional crafter, including scrimshaw carvers. What's a scrimshaw carver? An uneasy reliance remains between the towns and other peoples of the area, which include various barbarian and Goliath communities, as well as dwarven clans residing deep within the surrounding mountains. For the most part, these groups are aware that they must work together or at least peacefully coexist to survive. However, the region's limited resources are inevitably the source of some tension. Yeah, I can believe that. So, Revel's End, Drizzt Do'Urden, Creatures of the Ice. Purple worms. One of the most feared inhabitants of the Underdark, purple worms are responsible for forging many of the region's subterranean paths. There's a text box here with our adventurers in a tunnel which looks like it's been created by a purple worm. Purple worm lairs, influences, kobolds. It's like, what are they? Sometimes bad things come in small packages. Meet the cowardly and cunning kobolds. According to the lore, kobolds are ancient lineage with dragons. And yet, unlike Dragonborn, another species descended from dragons, kobolds went down a much different route. They retained almost nothing of a dragon's boldness and strength, inheriting only their ruthless cunning. Many adventurers view them as little more than troublesome pests, more prone to fleeing than fighting when confronted. Kobolds. Yeah, so Dungeons and Lasers do their townsfolk and NPC character packs, and you do get like a small spattering of certain things. So I think in the NPC pack they had some kobolds and they had some what are the hyena people? I forget what they are now. And some other stuff. And what I'd like to see the Dungeons and Lasers do is perhaps a doesn't need to be as big because you get quite a few miniatures in these packs of theirs. You know, I think in the character townsfolk pack, you got something like 60 odd characters, and I think it was almost on a par with the same in the NPC character pack. But it would be nice if perhaps they did like a small box of 20 kobolds in different poses. That would be really nice. You know, 20 skeletons, 20, you know, just like, so that you could buy these, because they're not cheap either. The packs that you buy, I mean, they're good value, but they're not cheap. So I think if Dungeons and Lasers ever see this, let's have some character packs of specific races, you know, so kobolds, turtles, tabaxis, you know, all doing different things, different poses, different character types, that sort of thing, and maybe do them in a slightly smaller pack, you know, maybe a 20 or a 24 pack. That would be really nice, thank you. Kobold Outliers. Inspirations: playing as a kobold, running kobolds. For dungeon masters, even puny kobolds can be run in a way that absolutely terrorises an overconfident party. Considering their size and weakness, kobolds might be seen like lightweight foes. However, spend time considering how kobolds would thoughtfully defend their tunnels in a world where everything else is larger, more dangerous Excuse me. Right, so we then come on to our encounter for the week. The King and the Traitor. Encounter background: the characters have escaped from Kraesir's extraplanar prison and returned to the catacombs of the Iron Tabernacle, only to discover that the necromancer has fled while the characters were trapped. The heroes have scarcely had time to get their bearings before they hear the din of a pitched battle emanating from the throne room. Encounter goals: Kraesir forces have penetrated the Vault of the Kings, and the characters must rush to the aid of the king and his guard before Necromancer brings Gauntlgrim to its knees. Oh, we get a purple worm by the look of it. So, it's a small text block about Kraesir's master plan. Battle of the Throne Room. Option 1, zombie worm boss fight. Option 2, seal the tunnel. Excuse me. Bruenor failed. When the worm is defeated, the tunnel has been closed. Read the following. The cavern shakes as the statues fall. The zombie worm shrieks in agony and thrashes. As its death throes subside, a cry rings out from across the fallen roof truss. Assassin! The dust clears and you see two surviving sentinels standing over Bruenor's collapsed body. His eyes have rolled back in his head and he silently convulses on the ground as thin strands of shadow bind his limbs to his body and flow into his mouth and nose. The last of the surviving guards points to a cloaked figure sprinting away down the passage. As they turn to glance at the commotion behind them, the figure's hood falls away from the head and their face is unmistakable. So you can heal Bruenor, you can confront the traitor. Identity of the traitor: one of the losing claimants in the conflict resolutions that the characters help to decide in Encounter 40, the King's Favour, has defected to Kraesir's forces. Vengeful at the result of their ordeal, this traitor is lost in despair over mounting acts of evil Kraesir has fooled them into committing. In the traitor's mind, they have long since passed the point of no return. There can be no forgiveness, so they must commit to the vile path they are on. So, yeah, it looks like there's a choice. So, Brina Turnstile, New Line Turnstile, Persile Turnstile, Malo Belrock, and Edrian Paleridge, Telvin Merkstone. So any of those from previous encounter could be the traitor in this encounter. Holy Water, smoke powder keg. Okay, and then we have a zombie purple worm. Cool. Skeleton infantry and dwarf veteran. There you go. Right, here's your dice. They are just literally glitter dice, really. Doo-doo. They actually don't look too bad. I don't mind them. So there's a 10 on the D20 there. 18, 5, 9, 18 again, 4, 13, 16, and 10. So yeah, there you go. That's your dice for this issue. And yeah, hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye-bye.